We're going to be taking a look at the Scythe KazeFlex 140mm class fan. It looks pretty strong. Let's get into it. So first level of cross comparison for how it overall ranked when compared to other fans. So we got the KazeFlex 140 that knocked to a A14, Tough Fan 14, Tough Fan 14 Pro. Just listed on here in its ranking. For most up-to-date ranking information, I do recommend you take a look at my best of videos because it should have it on there. But this is where it ranked at the time that I created this presentation, or video I should say. So a little bit of spec information. It's a little bit extra thick than a standard 140mm class fan, fluid dynamic bearing, 0.22 amps, 1,800 RPM, there's a CFM, static pressure, mean time between failure.
Before we get into the data, I would like to thank Mint Mobile for being today's video partner. Thanks to Mint Mobile's wireless plans, it is possible to not only switch away from big, expensive mobile companies, but also to have a quality, affordable plan for me and my family. Mint Mobile's premium wireless plans start at just $15 a month for a 3-month plan. For that, I can get high-speed data and unlimited talk and text on the nation's largest 5G network. I can bring my own phone and keep my current phone number, so you don't need to memorize a new phone number, something I have always found difficult. Switching to Mint is super easy. Thanks to digital eSIM cards, which most phones have, you can sign up and activate immediately right from your own phone, from the comfort of your own home. If by any chance your phone doesn't have an eSIM card, Mint will ship you a new SIM card free of charge. And right now, for new customers, Mint Mobile is offering 50% off their 12-month unlimited plan. It's the best deal of the year, but it's only available for a limited time. If you're interested in learning more about Mint Mobile and switching, visit my link up above or the link in the video description down below.
So the first graph is the case simulation test. I took it at 4 key measurement locations, the 6, the 9, the 11, and the 14.5 inch marks. The 6 inch mark is representative of your mini ITX type cases, still a front to back airflow type design, assuming air coolers here, holding approximately 120mm class fan in terms of that length. It is also representative of a short throw distance. By that I mean putting fans at the bottom of your case and having them blow up towards your GPU. Very applicable to that situation. The next we have the 9 inch mark. Think a compact tower, something that can hold a standard ATX motherboard but not a lot of extra room around that. So 220mm class fans in terms of that length. Then we have the 11 inch mark. This would be your standard mid towers. Think 320mm class fans or a standard 360 AIO would fit in a computer case like this. And then we have the 14.5 inch mark, truly large towers, being able to hit or fit 340mm class fans. So depending on what size computer case you plan on buying or building into or already own is the data point you want to pay special attention to. Now, all of that said, we need something to compare this fan against as a baseline comparison. So I have a mathematical control fan. It is base 3 parts A12 against Phi to 1 part A14, creating a blended 30mm class fan that I compare every single fan against. So fans that go underneath it, I consider to be okay to terrible, depending on how far away it gets. And fans that go over top of it would be considered, well, good, better, best, that kind of thing. So the KazeFlex isn't that great a fan for smaller cases, but in middle-sized cases, it does pretty well. But as you get to bigger cases, it kind of just drops off. So it's not particularly efficient in that regard, in those normalized results. At 100% P-dome fan signaling, well, here it actually does really quite well. It lines up very closely with my control fan overall. Now its noise level, which is over here, is on the higher side. It is almost twice as loud as my control fan. So that is up to you to determine if that extra noise volume that it creates is too unpleasant to deal with. But we need something to compare against. So I have a bunch of other fans on here. And the KazeFlex lines up fairly closely at the 6 and the 9 inch mark, sitting right alongside other fans. But by the time we're starting hitting larger towers, larger cases, it starts dropping away in this air-cooled type environment. So there's just better options out there compared to it. How about at 100%? Well, the story remains the same. It does really quite well at the 6 and the 9, but by the time you hit the 10 and the 14.5 inch mark, it is spreading air out way too wide, and there are just better options available. But taking a look at the 9 inch mark, airspeed versus that decibel rating, middle of the pack. Again, we saw that from the results, and at the 9 inch mark, it did pretty well. If we did the same thing at the 11 inch mark, it'd be ranked closer to the bottom compared to these fans around it. So it all depends on which data point could be referring to. So that's kind of the caveat, I guess, we can utilize here.
Sound normal direction. Pull.
Before we get into the next set of graphs, I want to take this opportunity to thank my YouTube and Patreon members. You guys are awesome. It's thanks to your support that I've been able to acquire a radiator to enhance my testing methodology. Unfortunately, I still don't have a test system, so I don't have any thermal data for y'all yet. I'm hoping to acquire that sooner than later. Times are tough a little bit right now at time of filming this, but that is an ongoing goal for this channel. If you're looking at ways to support this channel, just hitting that subscribe button does really, truthfully, go a long way in helping support this channel. But if you got the means and the ends and you like the approach that I'm taking and would like to see this channel grow and succeed, please do think about joining me as a Patreon or YouTube member. My two upper tiers now have access to my raw data. Upon request, I will need an email address to grant access to it. Unfortunately, it's just a very manual process at this time, but it is there for those who would be interested in it. And all that can be found just on this, on the member page of the YouTube channel. Other than that, let's get back to the video. So the next set of graphs we're taking a look at is through my CPU air cooler. It's the Noctua U12A. And again, we're just taking a look at air speeds going through it. So it's just the resistance that the fin stack imposes on the airflow. So it doesn't really matter that it's too big because I have my anemometer sitting right behind the fin stack. So it works just fine as is. So the first graph here is meters per second versus RPM. And this is basically a blade efficiency graph. It is how good is this blade design at shoving air at a particular RPM. And the KazeFlex is more efficient than my control fan. But if we take a look at the right graph, this is noise, so decibels, versus that same airspeed. The control fan pretty well, handily outperforms the KazeFlex. It is just significantly quieter. But how does it compare against other fans in its regime? Mostly 140 millimeter class fans, actually all of them. Pretty middle of the pack, upper middle. It's doing okay, noise normalized results. Taking a look at it at 100%, well, it is shifted towards the top, meaning that it is one of the better fans. And if we take a look at the noise data around it, most of these fans are performing in a very similar regard. And talking about that blade efficiency, if you look at the other fans around it, it is at a lower RPM and, well, competing quite well with these higher performing fans in this particular test. So, I mean, that is pretty darn cool. If we take a look at the cooler performance, airspeed versus that decibel rating once again. This time we have the A12X25 on here as well. The KazeFlex sits right in the middle, and it's a good place for it to be. You'll notice that the Silent Wings 4 Pro is on here, and these joggles off to the side. Those are where I hit a harmonic or resonant frequency within the fan and causes it to get noisy, and then it comes back, sometimes noisy again. It all kind of depends on the fan's tuning itself. It's not ideal, but that fan I also tested at every 5 PWM fan signal. My usual testing methodology currently is every 10. As this fan channel grows, I hope to be able to incorporate doing it every 5 PW fan signal. It just takes twice as long and, well, Right now this channel is unsponsored, unpaid, so it's just free time, so it's hard to justify that time expense for myself right now. But I hope to be able to include it as, again, the testing grows and the channel grows. Now we're into CFM testing. I'm sorry, there's a little mislabel over here that says meters per second. That should definitely say CFM. But the CFM test is real simple. You got a tube, we got a fan, we slap the fan up against the tube, and we blow air down it. It negates the effects that the fan has of blowing air off to the side because the tube focuses the airflow itself. And I have my anemometer at the end of it, and we take some measurements. So, same sort of thing as with the air cooler. CFM versus RPM, blade efficiency. The control fan here outperforms the KazeFlex. And we take a look at noise results. Well, the KazeFlex is once again underperforming compared to my control fan. How about compared to against other fans? Well, in noise normalized results, it's pretty piss poor. It's, well, honestly, at the bottom of the graph. They're just, almost every other fan is significantly better than it. At 100%, the story remains the same. This goes back into what I was saying earlier. I want to be able to overhaul a lot of my testing methodology because scythe fans, for whatever reason, seem to have a hard time with this particular test, and reverse plate fans also seem to have a hard time with it. So I just want to overhaul several testing. And unfortunately, better test equipment is more expensive, and we're back to that same circle once again. So it's on the to-do list, unfortunately. All right, now we're on to CFM versus that decibel rating as it grows. Again, like we were saying before, the KazeFlex is just sitting towards the bottom. It just doesn't compete well in this test. Next up is value proposition. Value proposition is not performance. It is performance per dollar. So a fan that might be absolutely terrible, but if it's cheap enough, it'll still look good on this graph. So that's my caveat. So the KazeFlex at the 6-inch mark at noise normalized at 100%, pretty middle of the road, nothing spectacular, not terrible, just middle of the road at $17.50, which is the standard retail pricing that I could find on Amazon. At the 11-inch mark, well, basically the middle of the pack. I mean, newer graphs, I do have them high to low. Fortunately, this is a little bit of an older format video. Again, small channel, just me, hard to justify a lot of time to redo graphs to republish these things. But newer ones have it in order. But pretty middle of the pack. CFM testing, value, amazingly enough, kind of looks about the middle, even at 100%. Moving up to the air cooler, a little bit under the middle of the pack, but still pretty close to it. So kind of an average value is kind of what I interpret this fan to have. And that brings us to the end of the video. This is the raw data. This raw data does belong to me and this channel. If you want to use it for your own personal use, you may go ahead and do so. But if you're going to use it in any sort of video, publication, written, journal, anything that can be monetized, I do ask that you reference me and my channel. After all, I am the one who generated it. I know that this is a little bit older format video compared to some of my newest ones where I have even more upgraded graphs. So thank you for understanding that. If you got constructive criticisms from me on ways that I can improve my videos, I'm always trying to improve to make it a little bit more enjoyable. I know that I'm very data heavy. If you got suggestions for fans for me to take a look at, I'll try to get my hands on them. And I've started reaching out to different fan companies to see if they'll send me samples as opposed to just having to buy them all myself. And I'll denote that in each video, whether it was provided to me or I purchased it. Other than that, well, thank you all for making it this far in my video. I hope you have a great day, and I hope to see you next time here on Computer Tech and More.